So are we at Joseph's dreams yet?
37, yes. We'll tackle these, or at least attempt to tackle these first 14 verses or so. Alright. Anyway, Genesis chapter 37. It says, Now Jacob lived in the land where his father had sojourned in the land of Canaan. And of course, we know that that's in southern Canaan, in the area around Hebron. So these are the records of the generations of Jacob. Joseph, when 17 years of age, was pasturing the flock with his brothers while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. Now, notice who's missing.
Rebecca?
Well,
Rebecca already died. Leah.
Yeah. None of Leah's sons are there. It's the concubine sons that are there doing the work. Of course, Benjamin's still a baby. And Joseph, he gets to be the fink. It says, and Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Now, there's been all kinds of speculation as to what was this bad report. Did Jacob send Joseph there to find out what they were up to, and he reported back? Or did Joseph just take it upon himself to rat them out for whatever it was they were up to? There's been all kinds of speculation, but the fact of the matter is, we just plain don't know. All we know is that the fact that he went back and ratted them out for whatever it was they were doing definitely started the downhill slide on their relationship with Joseph.
Is there any significance to the fact that Bilhah and Zilpah are actually called wives here instead of concubines?
Because legally they were wives.
I mean, they were second-class wives up until now.
Well, pretty much that's exactly what they were. They were second-class wives, but they were legally Jacob's wives. It says, Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a vari-colored tunic. In other words, the coat of many colors.
So Jacob didn't make him the coat of many colors. Israel did. Jacob's name's changed right here.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's acting as the patriarch.
But you'll also notice that in this chapter, Israel and Jacob tend to get interchanged a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it took me a long time.
Well, earlier
To
you said
realize
when he's
they were
referred to
the
as Jacob, that's him as a person. But when he's referred to as Israel, that's him as the patriarch.
And in most cases, that's true.
But here it's just interchangeable.
But in this particular chapter, we see it kind of fluctuates back and
So
forth.
you're saying I'm reading too much into it?
At this point, probably so.
Okay.
Said, and his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and so they hated him and could not speak to him on friendly terms. Now,
Everybody hates the teacher's pet.
well, not only that, but you figure the brothers are all adults by this point, and we're just told Joseph is 17, and they know that Joseph is, as you just said, the pet at this particular point. By the way, notice who's not mentioned anywhere in here.
So far, the ones that caused the garbage haven't been mentioned.
The what?
The ones that caused the trouble haven't been mentioned.
Well, no, but the point is that Benjamin's not mentioned.
Yeah, but didn't you say he was little and wouldn't have been even?
True, but I mean, we're just not, Benjamin's not even a part of this picture at this point. Still a baby. Now, as to which one of the women were probably taking care of Benjamin, I can, take a guess that would have either have been Bilhah because of course she was, what was, yeah, that's her, Rachel's nurse. Or the other possibility is Leah, because Leah would have been his aunt, the sister. Now, which one was taking care of him, we can only guess. But pretty sure at this point, Zilpah is definitely not involved in the raising of Benjamin at all. But now, in verse 5, we get to the interesting part that really sets his brothers off at Joseph. It said, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. And he said to them, please listen to this dream which I have had. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf rose up and also stood erect, and behold, your sheaves gathered round and bowed down to my sheaf. And then his brothers said to him, are you actually going to reign over us? Or are you really going to rule over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Now, for all that we read about how great of a leader Joseph became, why do you think at this point, at 17 years old, Joseph thought that it was a good idea to tell his big brothers about these crazy dreams that he's having?
He probably was,
Maturity.
Right.
he was immature, but he was like, hey, I had this cool dream. I don't think he meant anything malicious by
I'd be
it.
willing to bet Joseph is a spoiled brat at this point.
Yeah.
Because
He's favorite. He got the multicolored cloak.
he's been given this nice little coat that none of the other brothers have. He's basically been told to go spy on your brothers and see what they're up to. He's 17, which that in itself tells us a lot right there.
Full of himself.
He's full of himself. I can do no wrong. Daddy loves me more than he loves you. And do you think Joseph, maybe he knew that he was Daddy's favorite? Oh, brothers have a way of figuring that out. So I have a feeling at this point in his life, Joseph is nothing more than a spoiled brat.
And yet his dream was a prophecy.
His dream was a prophecy. And the interesting thing is that clearly God gave him this dream. But you might want to we ask ourselves, why would God give Joseph these dreams at this point in his life if Joseph is at a point in his life where he is still too immature to deal with it?
Set the wheels in motion for his other brothers to do what they were going to do.
There you go.
God knew what was going to happen already.
Oh yeah, it set the wheels in motion to bring all this about. Because God knew that his brothers were fed up with him.
As the youngest child, I believe that poor Joseph is getting a bad rap.
As the oldest child, I can relate to the brothers.
Yeah. But just the fact that he's like, oh, I had this cool dream. Let me tell you about my dream. I'm the one that's important in it, and all of you get to bow down before me. Yeah, I bet Joseph enjoyed telling that dream to them. All right.
Cynical.
Verse 9 says, now he had still another dream and related it to his brothers and said, lo, I've had still another dream, and behold, the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. Now, it doesn't take a whole lot of, godly insight here to figure out this dream. The sun, the moon are his dad and his mother. The 11 stars are his brothers. And of course, in this case, there's 11 stars. He's including Benjamin in this. But now, what's the problem with this dream at this point? The sun and the moon.
His mother's dead.
Mother's dead. There were 4 moons. No mention of any of the other wives, but Joseph's mother's dead at this point. So my point here is this is a good example of how, dreams can be interpreted to mean something, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're always reflecting historical fact exactly the way things happen. They're given to us in these supernatural instances to teach us a particular point or a lesson, but it doesn't mean that they are always exactly point for point accurate. Because as I mentioned, there's two problems with this. Because there are 4 moons and one of them's dead. But it gets the point
would
across.
The moon he refers to here be the surrogate
Well, maybe.
who stepped in to mother after his mother died?
And that's a possibility. But the point is that it certainly didn't take, a whole lot to figure out what the dream was about. Because look at what his brother's response was. Verse 10 says he related it to his father and to his brothers. So now he's included, obviously he's telling this one back home. He's telling this one even to his daddy. Said, and his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that you've had? Shall I and your mother? By the way, interesting, it says I and your mother. Well, clearly his actual mother's dead, so who would this be a reference to?
Whoever's taking care of it.
Whichever one of those two stepped in to take the place that was probably raising Benjamin. That's why I'm saying is that clearly one of them was, but we don't know which one that was. Again, my guess is either Leah or Bilhah, but considering Leah was considerably older, I would venture to say probably Bilhah, since she was the maid for Rachel. It says, shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow ourselves down before you to the ground? And his brothers were jealous of him. His father kept the saying in mind. Clearly they're not happy about this. And even Jacob is kind of rebuking him at this point. Now, the next part is really interesting. It says, then his brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem. Now, you remember, why did they leave Shechem?
Because they killed the...
Yeah, they'd wiped out the whole town and fled Shechem to keep the relatives from the neighboring towns for coming after them. Now notice that while they are not living at Shechem, they've taking the flocks and the herds back toward the good pasture land in and around Shechem. This kind of tells me two things. Probably the pasture land there was better, and 2, it tells us it's been long enough that they figure the uproar has died down. So it could have been, 2, 3, 4 years since they had fled Shechem by this point. All right, Israel said to Joseph, notice again, refers to him as Israel in this point. Israel said to Joseph, are not your brothers pasturing the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. And he said to him, I'll go. Then he said to him, go now and see about the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the flock, and bring word back to me. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and this, of course, confirms for us that's in fact where they were living, was in Hebron. And he came to Shechem. Now, this tells us not only were they actually living in Hebron, but the fact that Joseph is bringing these bad reports back, that tells us that probably Jacob had put him up to it. He wasn't just ratting them out. Jacob took it upon himself to send them up there to find out, what are your brothers up to, and then come back and tell me. So, not to say that Joseph probably didn't enjoy the opportunity to rat him out to his dad. His dad kind of put him up to it. But the next thing is what to me is the interesting part of this whole passage. Verse 15, and a man found him. Behold, he was wandering in the field, and the man asked him, what are you looking for? And he said, I'm looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are pasturing the flock. Then the man said, they've moved from here, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan, not Alabama. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. Now, here's the big question. Who is the identity of this man?
And how did he know who he was and who his brothers were?
And how did he get close enough to his brothers to overhear a conversation that they were going to Dothan? We have no clue from the passage as to the identity of this man. But as we just mentioned, he's left completely unidentified. He just shows up at the right place at the right time. He knows where the brothers are. And by the way, notice he says, "What are you looking for?" Joseph says, "Well, I'm looking for my brothers." Well, how did this guy know who his brothers were? And then on top of that, how did he know or get close enough that, well, I overheard them say they were going to Dothan? Unless
they're in town, they're out in a field with a flock and a pasture.
Yeah. Now, you might think, well, maybe they were, taking a break and they were in the bar downtown. And no, because remember what happened to Shechem. Shechem as a town didn't exist anymore. Shechem was gone. So there was no place that he could have just happened to come across the brothers and overhear them saying, "Well, we're going to Dothan." There's only one logical conclusion to the identity of this man. He had an encounter of his own with Christ. Or either that or an angel. Now, it could have been an angel, but it's either an angel or God pre-incarnate that has appeared to Joseph and told Joseph what he needs to know. The second important question is, why?
To put the wheels in motion.
That's exactly it. That issue right there, sending him to Dothan so that he finds his brothers, sets the wheels in motion for Joseph to get sent to Egypt.
He also asked him an extremely leading question. What are you looking for?
Uh-huh. How did he know he was looking for anything? So I think what we have here is either God himself speaking to Joseph and Joseph doesn't know it, or Joseph has just had an angelic encounter, I'll get my tongue straight in a minute, and again has no clue. He just thinks this is just some guy that just happens to be at the right place at the right time.
I tend to think it wasn't angelic. That question is I'm who you're looking for, you just don't know it yet.
Yeah. And that's entirely possible. I mean, we can't be dogmatic about it, but that's a good possibility. But in any event, as Mario just said, that encounter sets the wheels in motion to get Joseph where he needs to be.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead, but I got a question here.
All right.
How many years have passed between the revelation of the dream and the selling of Joseph off to the slavers? Because if all the brothers participated in it and Benjamin was only a little toddler at this point, how did he participate in selling his brother off?
Benjamin didn't.
He did.
Okay. That's
No,
the
it
part of the
was-
story I didn't know.
Yeah. As far as how many years, none. This would have taken place in a matter of days.
Okay.
And
So
yeah,
Benjamin was still a toddler and he wasn't participating in.
Yeah, Benjamin's back home with the nurse.
Okay.
Or the other wife, whichever one it was.
His
So
dad.
it's the other 10 brothers that.
It was the other 10 that did this to him.
Okay.
And in fact, as we'll continue on Wednesday, we'll see just exactly the involvement of which brother did what. When we continue the rest of the story, we will pick up at verse 18 on Wednesday. Any questions this evening? All right.